Is this thing working now? Hang on a minute. What the hell is going on with this? Guys, check. Hopefully this thing's working now. Do I have a microphone? Looks like I've got... Guys, can y'all hear me? I am good. Okay, good deal. Somebody let me know. Okay, so we're back live. Yes, okay, finally. Well, I don't know what the hell happened there. Some of that internet is going on here. So, guys, check this out. Let me get it all situated over here. I don't know what the deal was with that. Actually, I kind of do. There seems to be some kind of flake out whenever I start using this camera right here. Every once in a while, there's some kind of hoosafudge that takes place with that. Try to get this thing back. Yeah, no kidding. Dodge trying to shut me up. Actually, not this time, guys. Dodge would not want to be shutting me up with the kind of gushing tongue bath that I'm about to give this engine. So, spoiler alert, fellas. So, listen, here's the thing. I know there's been a lot of folks out there that have been talking about this engine or that engine. You'll hear somebody say, oh, there's a V8 coming or there's not a V8 coming. You'll hear a lot of nonsense being thrown around out there. And guys, I can't talk about what I don't know about. I'm not going to sit here and try to speculate on a bunch of what ifs. There are some realities that are going to come with whatever engines are going to put in what is now considered to be the next, platform to get a power plant swap, which is going to be the Ram trucks. We're talking about the Hurricane Inline 6s, whether it's the 400 plus horsepower variant or it's the 500 plus horsepower variant. Suffice it to say, this engine is coming in hot and it is underrated. So what I want to give you guys is a little bit more of my impression of this thing. I drove it just very recently. I drove the 500 horsepower variant in a Grand Wagoneer that was about 6,500 pounds. And I can tell you that, on reflection and looking back on that engine, I did a kind of an afterglow type of video with this thing where it was after I had already driven the Grand Wagoneer. I'd been able to play with it a little bit. I had a really cool sales guy with me. He's like, man, world's your oyster, baby. Do whatever you want with this thing. And so we're just hanging out, just absolutely flogging the hell out of this thing. Guys, it's not like I was trying to test it to find out what gives. I was playing in it. I want you to think about this for a minute. This is something that I didn't mention in that video. That engine combination, that 6,500 pound truck that felt like it weighed 4,500 pounds when I was driving it, was playful in a way that the V8s are not. And if any of you guys have either one of these engine combinations in a Wagoneer or Grand Wagoneer, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. These things, when they come on the boil, they march. And I mean, they sprint away from any of the V8 offerings. That's 5.0, 5.3, 6.2, any of the trucks that I've driven. That 6-cylinder will stomp it. And the other thing is, put it up against an EcoBoost. The 3.5, the difference is that where the EcoBoost hits hard and as it shifts, feels like it kind of lays over in the power. Not sure why that is. The Hurricane just keeps pulling. In fact, it makes peak power, I think, is at 6,200 RPM. Pretty high for a 6-cylinder in general, a 6-cylinder turbo. But it feels like the thing could pull to about 7,000 RPM. Guys, I'm not kidding. It pulls that hard. It has such a playful nature to it, too. It's something that I really couldn't put into words at the time because I was too busy, having a good time with a 6,500 pound Luxo barge that had massage chairs in it. Now, I've never sat in anything with a massage chair before, but I can get kind of used to that. I mean, dude, anyway, getting back to the point, I know there's a lot of folks that are upset about a V8 going away. Drive one of these things. You'll forget about the 5.7 or the 6.4. And I'll take that even a step further. There's a lot of folks that are saying, well, why don't they just make a small displacement V8, make that twin turbo, and send that out for public consumption? There's a number of reasons why that doesn't really work. Some of it is packaging. Quite frankly, packaging a V8 twin turbo, although Mercedes and BMW have been doing it for a long time with the E-Class and the 550s, for whatever reason, just doesn't seem to play well with whatever Stellantis was working with. I don't know if it was a developmental cost, or if it has more to do with just EPA regulations in general. The thing is that it's very difficult for, how do I put this? It's harder and harder to make a larger displacement engine under certain circumstances pass a NOx test, carbon monoxide test. It's getting tougher and tougher to get those to pass. There are ways to game the system, and this is where I just kind of laugh, because power is power. And if you are boosted, it takes a richer mixture to make whatever given power you're at if you're under power enrichment conditions. So under just puttering down the road, a 6-cylinder has lower frictional losses. So I'm going to bore you to tears, but I ain't professor for nothing, right? So under normal cruising circumstances, let's say that an engine takes a final output of 30 horsepower and 70 pound-feet of torque to move a vehicle at 60 miles an hour, just puttering down a highway. Let's call it 70 miles an hour for more of a realistic approach. And it's whatever number. It doesn't matter. The numbers are irrelevant, because to achieve that number, the engine is going to have to combat, and we're talking just a final number, the engine's going to have to combat frictional losses, internal frictional losses. The powertrain could all be exactly the same. A smaller engine will have lower frictional losses than a larger engine. It only makes sense. Pistons are so big around, they create a friction on the cylinder walls. There's rod journals and everything else that can come with that. You have stiction, which now involves oil and its resistance to a turning or a twisting motion. And so you get all of these things in play. A smaller engine will need less power to overcome internal friction. And so it will use less power to put out a certain amount of needed power, especially under cruise conditions. And so that's part of the gamesmanship. It's why you try to get the smallest engine you can. And then when you need power, throw as much boost at it as you possibly can with that Hurricane engine. Now, one of my concerns is, now I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say a lot of great things about that engine. I'll give you guys more of my driving impressions of that as we go along here. But I want to get this elephant out of the room straight away. And the elephant is, I'm concerned about reliability with this thing. Boys, let me tell y'all something. The EcoBoost, with all of its issues, and let's be real, I have to admit, I don't know of any people that have had an EcoBoost that haven't had problems with it, of all different sorts. And so you can say, well, you're comparing apples and avocados. Well, they're both 6 cylinders, albeit one of the one is straight. And I get all the arguments here. Let's just say this. I don't know that there's enough of these Hurricanes out in public consumption being put through their paces with 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles on them just yet. So I have a worry that there could be a longevity issue with that engine. But we just don't know it. So it's something that I can't really speak to, but it is a real concern just based on the fact that it's a small engine and it needs a ton of boost to make the power that it's making. The 400 horse variant, no slouch. And by the way, I say 400. I know it's rated at 4XX and the 5 the same, but you get the idea. The thing with the 400 horse is that you would expect that to be in the truck first. But again, without enough miles of actual usage out there, I just don't know how long it's going to last. I can only base my concerns off of the more readily available engines that are out there. I will say, though, that the Ford 2.7 seems to be pretty much bomb proof, although it also seems to be better built than the 3.5. But when we're talking power, you always give the nod to the 3.5. So there you have it. I've said it, so it's out of the way. Well, let's talk about driving this thing. Now, listen, in perfect Dodge fashion, this thing was amazing to drive. You know, one thing Dodge really does get right is they put vehicles together that are lively. You know, you can have something that is lively, but just isn't the top tier echelon in terms of being fast. I mean, from a roll, this thing is lively, though. From a dig, this thing is lively. Talking about this Hurricane 6. It's lively in ways that the 6.4 liter is not. And yes, I'm talking about, again, just like I said in the video, the Scat Pack you have in your garage right now, that 6.4, not the truck 6.4. That 6.4, it's not going to go well. It will not end well for the 6.4 if you put it up against the HO Hurricane 6. Oh, and that's also leading me to say something else. Once these engines start to become more and more adopted into different platforms, it will absolutely make the Hemi more and more obsolete. I'm also going to say that straight away. I understand your concerns about durability. I have them myself. I mean, let me give you an example. The where I was going with this is the 400 horse variant, somewhere around 20. What was it? I had it written on my whiteboard up here, 22 psi. With the 500 horse around 26 psi, 27, something like that. Forgive me if I'm not exactly getting those numbers correct, but I'm definitely within a couple of numbers there. To put that in perspective, guys, those are boost numbers that EcoBoost owners don't want to get to with their trucks when they modify them to haul ass and run 12s. Okay. So just keep that again in the back of your mind when we're talking about these engines. They're running what is and can be considered an astronomical number if you're coming from another point of view. Perfect example. Again, I keep talking about the 3.5 EcoBoost, the one that's been out the longest and it's kind of the benchmark. That thing is at 15 pounds of boost. Basically, it's at 1 atmosphere. So, I mean, you start talking about 1.5 atmospheres, 1.75 atmospheres, you're really turning up the wick at that point. So, heck, I think the 500 horsepower variant could be getting close to 2 bars. So, something to consider. That's a fuel quality issue, but they've got the technology to make it work. And I can tell you just with my experience with it, it works. So let me talk you guys through, how do I say this? Let me talk you guys through the driving experience after I check in with you guys. So let me bust up here. Ryan is in. Skids, I can hear you. Nice. DM. Got the correct cadence with the arm flex and the ball guy with the shades. I like it. Limestone saying you're good now. Speed Freak is in. Hang on a second, fellas. Let me do a little something here real quick. All right. Sound is on. Ardell is in. Skids, Dodge trying to silence you. There he is. Shane's in. What's going on? What's up, Shane? David's in. Ardell, Hurricane sounds cool. It is cool, my man. I'm telling you. Skids Butter said there's a V8 coming soon. Must be true. What's funny about that is there's been talk. God, that is old ass news. That there was talk of a new V8 way back in 2017, guys. I don't know if y'all remember that, but there was a little bit of chitter chatter back then because they were going to, after 2018, be switching into a new platform. That was going to be the Ghibli or the Giulia platform. And initially it was the Giulia platform and the V8 was potentially going to go away. There was a talk of maybe a smaller V8 going into that car. And then they switched over to the Ghibli platform because it could house a V8. But there was talk, there was some rumors floating around that with the new platform was going to come a new engine, and we were all kind of excited about that. And then all of that fizzled out, and it was kind of a flash in the pan. Maybe a couple of 3 months that there was chatter, and that was it. But that's old ass news. Speed saying, "Hey B, are there any performance cars out there with factory flex fuel that take, or any factory flex fuel? In other words, cars that can run E85?" No, there aren't. Not that I can think of any, other than the Demon 170. Eric saying, "What's up, man?" Skid saying, only concern I have is there been enough R&D done on this engine. We will see recall city. That's exactly what, yep, I'm worried about that stuff too. Bad wastegate, blow-offs. We can only hope, and I just don't know of enough of them being out there and with enough miles under the hood, so to speak. See, Eric's hanging out with everybody. What's up, Sovereign? Saying hello to everyone. Greetings to all. Skid saying greetings, cheers to y'all. Good to see everyone on. Looks like you guys are catching up. Skid saying, also have a question for you all. Are you on two wheels already? New channel, the Tribe, will be coming soon. Talking a lot of motorcycles, and yes, there is a new motorcycle coming for the channel. I will leave you to guess what it may be. But considering my affinity for old school stuff, I will give you a hint. It is not a Triumph. Sovereign saying stream is really blurry. Wi-Fi connection. Hey guys, how's the Wi-Fi connect? Is it still jacked, or are we any good? Let me know. Not that there's anything I can do. I mean, I can't make the squirrels go faster. Still jacked. Hang on a second. Hold, please. Y'all chat amongst yourselves. Time out. Hang on just a second. God dang it. Time out. Shit. Okay, let's see if I can plug this thing in, if it works a little bit better back over here. Will it work better? Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Maybe it just remains crappy. I don't know. Okay, well, hopefully that works. If not, I'm sorry, guys. There's only so much I can be in control over. Let's see. I don't know why it would be blurry. We should be good, hopefully. Guys, is that true on y'all's end? That's all right. We can still hear and see. Okay, good deal. As long as I'm coming through at some level. Oh, Skid saying I went by Ford today, a GT Premium with auto performance package, $59,000. I mean, it has me curious. Sounds amazing. Completely bone side, by the way. Yeah, they do. That's one thing Ford really does right. Is that the sound of that 5-liter is good. Ardell saying sound is cutting out. Man, that is weird. I don't know why that is. Well, hopefully it's not completely unwatchable on y'all's end. Camboozin, what's happening, my man? Thought I would drop by and say, hey, the Hurricane certainly has my attention, but it would be nice to keep the Hemi in the new platform. So here's my thoughts on that. I am frustrated by with Dodge, and I understand the why behind it. It's just too hard to get the Hemi to pass emissions, guys. It really is. You've got to listen. You got a tumble port head that flows a whole lot of air, but you've got a cylinder head configuration that is, although it flows a lot, it's set up to run a top feeder intake manifold, which flows really well, but I'll put it to you like this. It makes a ton of power, but it suffers from the same issues that all Hemi-ish engines have. Big valves, low velocity. There's a lot of trickery you got to do to get them to work right. And they do. They work phenomenally. Make more power, actually, than I would have thought that they would in stock form. But it's tough to get them to pass emissions. So, but that's beside the point. What frustrates me, I mean, it passes well enough. What frustrates me is that they don't or won't offer a V8 alongside this engine, just like Ford does. In other words, if you don't want a 6-cylinder turbo for whatever reasons you may have, then here's your V8 alternative. And, you know, it is what it is. Let's see. But I agree with you, man. If they could just have kept it. Talked about kids. Keep the profanity down. Taking out. I think they need to learn everything from the Hurricane 6 and develop a engine. It would be cool if they would. Here's the only issue that I have. I know that when the thought had been passed or the rumor had been floated out there, the thought, perish the thought of getting rid of the Hemi. Boy, you talk about having two different completely, wow. Anyway, perish the thought of losing the Hemi. But when the thought of, or again, here we go, the rumor of the new engine came out, it was going to be either 5.2 or 5.5, potentially a dual overhead cam engine. That was it. And the problem with that is packaging. See, you've seen the 5-liter, right? So if a pushrod engine is a foot tall, a DOHC engine is going to be 18 inches tall. From a crank to top of the cylinder head measurement. Take a look at, okay, we're talking about the Hurricane 6. It is a tall engine, guys, and it's only 3 liters. So you can imagine when you're trying to package something that's dual overhead cam, it can get a little bit ungainly very quickly. But if you pack it with enough technology, you can make it work, and you can make it work incredibly well. Just, you know, look at the Coyote. So I'm a little bit bummed out by the fact that they're just not looking into it. But guys, let me tell you something. If you're worried about being able to get your hands on a V8 powered pickup truck, don't worry about that. There will be plenty of them at your Dodge used car lot when guys start driving these trucks with Hurricane engines. So believe me when I tell you, you drive one of these things, you will quickly be, if it just comes down to power, be wanting to get rid of your V8. And I think that's what Dodge is banking on. The 400 horse engine, from my understanding, now I don't have any experience with it, but my understanding with a 400 horse engine is that it runs really well. And I'll tell you this, the 500 horse engine is rated at 510 horsepower. Sure it is. That thing, and I meant every word of what I said in that video, that engine, if you were to tell me that it was 550 or 575 horsepower, I would have no other choice but to agree with you. If you said it was rated at 600 horsepower, I'd probably question that. But 550? Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. That thing is easily performing, at least on a level that you would expect a minimum of 550 horsepower in something that weighs 6,500 pounds. And again, if you were to tell me it was more, I believe you up to it. Obviously, maybe that 600 is a stretch, but man, that thing runs good. And golly, here's the twist. The transmission tune is flawless in sport mode. Freaking flawless, fellas. I'm not talking it's good. I'm talking it's properly tuned, flawless. And when it hits, bam, second, third, fourth, fifth. It hits every time it shifts. And by the way, and I didn't mention this either. I would love to know what in the video that I did before. I would love to know what torque converter is in that transmission and how that transmission is tuned. Because guys, check this out. I might be wrong. I'm just going off a feel here, but the way that it hits, if you can go back in time and remember, like, crap. This won't do any good. it hits like a transmission with a bunch of gears, but without a locking torque converter with a shift kit, like a stage 1.5 shift kit. Does that make sense? Like it hits and then shifts, and there's no, it doesn't go, but it just goes bam, bam, bam. It goes, it goes through the gears in a way that is so freaking fun. I'm telling you guys, this thing's 6,500 pounds. I wanted to take the thing and go try to drift it. That's how much I liked that thing that I drove. This thing that has massage seats, a killer sound system, screens, the works. The works, by the way. Yeah. The sales guy that I was with, super cool dude. And both of us were just, I mean, you can tell he's a car guy, right? And we're a younger guy, and we're just, yeah, just had so much fun with this barge. Okay. So it's 6,500 pounds, 0 to 60 in this thing. Let me think. Let's say it was 6 seconds. Let's say it was just the other side of 5, just the other side of 5 seconds. Okay, not deep into 6, just the other side of 5. Could you imagine that engine running like that in a car that weighs 4,000 pounds? Maybe 4,200 pounds, like a Scat Pack? No, maybe 3,800 pounds, 3,900 pounds. Make it more like a Mustang. That thing would be a screamer, guys. I'm telling you. So, yeah, I'm with you on the V8. It would be cool if they gave you an option, though, because there are a lot of guys that don't like the V8. But let me remind you guys of some things about the V8. The first some things that I want to remind you of is it's a variable cam V8, and cam phasers rattle. They make noise. Mine does in Stormy, by the way. Great oil pressure. The thing runs great, but on a low-speed decel, it'll rattle the cam phaser. There are other issues that come with the V8 that are problematic, and part of that is, well, elevations and altitude. The big reason why you want a twin-turbo 6-cylinder is so that it performs at other altitudes that aren't sea level. Atmo engines are atmospherically fed engines, as opposed to turbos or any kind of forced induction. The minute you start gaining altitude, they start lowering in power. And that number, it's well known in the aviation side, is 3% per 1,000 feet. And it's a real loss. You start getting up into, decent altitude at, let's say, 5,000 feet, which is not hard to find. You're looking at 15+% because it's 3%, but it's now, if you go 3% out of 100, that's 97. Now you got to go 3% out of 97, but there's going to be other taxed issues. You've got pumping losses that start to take into account, again, the higher you go up. So by the time it's all said and done, you're at least at 15% down on power, which is a big old chunk of power. Turbos don't have that problem, guys. Turbos are a cheat code. Matter of fact, if you're at higher altitude and you can maintain whatever manifold pressure the thing is set to at max, you'll go faster because the air is thinner. So just saying, they got their advantages. Let's see. Let me check back in with you guys. I do want to give you guys a bit more of that driving experience with that engine. Does my little electric motorcycle count? Of course it does. Anything on 2 wheels counts, man. Anything, everything. I don't care what it is. Skids sound is still cutting out. Well, hopefully it doesn't maintain the crappiness. But no, it's not a Sport Chief. The stream is looking like 320. I'm using the good camera. What's the deal? Oh, the bit rate's got it all jacked up. Skids 320, 321p, whatever it takes. It's just a little bit pixelated. That is so weird. So I'm not sure if there was something weird with the like an update or something like that, but YouTube did some kind of an update and it's got it a little bit jacked up. So, but Sovereign's saying it's low bandwidth. That's what's causing the stream to look and sound like it does, but we can still hear and see you. So that's good. If the sound's manageable, that's cool. Guys, this is a white noise generator for most of y'all anyway. So as long as the sound's coming in loud and clear, that's all I really care about. Let's see. Arthur Wall, tumble port. That is correct. Yeah, that's what a Hemi is. It's a tumble port. But then again, so is a 4-valve. Oh, Rome said, I found a Mopar Edition Challenger near me. Very cool. But they only wanted to give me $31K for my 21 Scat Pack. That's a little low, unless it's got really high mileage. Oh, John's asking, would you ever consider getting a C8, at least a Stingray? They're growing on me. And but I'm not there yet. I'm not Corvette guy on that level. I love them from an engineering point of view, though. They're really good. And apparently they're also very durable, much more so than cars that had come before them with the same technology. Oh, yeah. I think somebody had mentioned losing V8 audience, but it will bring a new perspective on drivers that like that kind of stuff. Absolutely. John's asking, what's the difference between the Hellcat engine and the red eye variants, which would be the Demon, the Super Stock, and all of that. The Demon and the Super Stocks have different rods and different pistons. Actually, no, they just have different pistons. The 170 has different rods. They have basically a set of Molnar pistons. There's a slight difference in the camshaft, but not enough to really fawn over. They've got different valve springs, though, which is a good thing. The supercharger is different. There's a lot different in the calibration, but that's kind of beside the point. Aside from that, though, they're basically the same. And I'll take that a step further. There's nothing wrong with the Hellcat engine itself. I mean, this engine here had so many wide open throttle hits that I couldn't count them all. And it never missed a beat, never had an issue. But I was also extremely careful with fuel quality for these things. You start fooling around with fuel quality with one of these things, and that's where things can get gone bad in a quick, fast hurry. He's saying, I like John the Baptist. Yep. Oh, Rum say the Dark Horse is grabbing his attention. They do need to make it more colors. I'll agree with that. Oh, but saying is diff leaking. Number's not bad, dude. Listen, out of a 6-speed, that's respectable. Low 13s, man, don't knock that. That's a hell of a good time out of that car, dude. I'm not saying that to just drag you along. It's real talk. Shane, you know, there was some talk of that V8 being a DOHC, but it would not be that big. It would be the biggest version of that I heard of was a 5.5 liter. They were floating a 5.2 was my understanding. And skids, yeah, Trim-X should be offered in all V8 Mustangs. I don't know why they are. Ardell saying, I really like the Wagoneer. Dude, Ardell, me and you both, buddy. I am a fan. I am a Wagoneer fanboy now after driving that thing. Sovereign is back. The G-Trash, the Gatreg manual. Yeah, it's no good. My sister had one in one of her Mustangs. And I like the ratios, but it was a floppy. I didn't like it that much. No, John, the normal Demon is nothing like the Demon 170. They share a block and a crankshaft, a cam phaser, maybe valve springs, and a throttle body, maybe, and that's about it. That's the only things that they would share. They do share some hard parts, to be sure, but no. I mean, the 170's got the 3-liter supercharger. The 170 has well, it come from the factory, can run on E85, which is a big deal. I'm saying, is one of the newest transmission tunes for the ZF 8HP and the Hurricane. Dude, I would love to get my hands on that tune. When the ZF updates their TCUs, it's a big deal. Yeah, it's real big deal in that thing in sport mode. I would love to just see what they did in that transmission tune. It's really that good. Skids, Wagoneers, how much with the H6? Just curious. I can only speak to the one that I drove. $98,000 and change. And that was for the short wheelbase, not the limo version, which they did have on the showroom floor. And I think that one might have been 106. X is saying, for what it sounds like, the Hurricane's a great engine. However, I don't think it's the right engine for a Charger or Challenger. For decades, muscle cars are a certain recipe, big V8 drive. True. And that's the thing with Dodge, guys. And I get it. I understand exactly what you're saying when you say that. I'm kind of there with you. I've been saying this for a while too. Dodge does big car real well. And I know what you're talking about with the V8. But if it's just the power that we're talking about, I know the sound is part of it. It's part of the theater and the motion and the sense of arrival, you know, the presence of the thing. But man, if you're just looking at a power number, look no further than, well, the Grand National, the Typhoon, the Cyclone, the GTR, the Supra. We're talking about the old one, and we can just start going through the years. But it's just not a muscle car. I mean, the Grand National is, but only because it's in a G body. You know, you put that engine in the Trans Am, which they did, and it's not the same. It doesn't have the same panache, I guess, if you're into muscle cars anyway. But you put it in a G body, something that's boxy, and then it makes sense. Let's see. Oh, how much am I selling the Hellcat for? The Hellcat is gone. Revlon is out of here, and I think it's already with its new owner. So I'm saying, like I said before, Dodge needs their version of the Supra. I would like their version of a Viper with that engine in it. Cyber saying Revlon's already gone. There he is. Egg saying, even if the Hurricane made 1,000 horsepower, I still prefer a less powerful V8 because I want the whole muscle car experience. I would tend to agree with that, provided that's what you're going for. You want the sound, and you're not ego driven. You just want the sound and the experience and the overall just sense of arrival. It's the only way I can really describe it. When you're coming with a V8, it just has a sound that is nice. And by the way, the smaller the V8, because of just how sound propagates out of an engine, it's a smaller port, could be a larger port, but the way that the sound comes out of the cylinder in a smaller engine has a less it has a less flat tone, and they just sound so good. If you've never heard a 289 Ford, a 281, the single overhead head cam engines, any of the 4.6s always sound so good. But the 2 valves really sound good. That's the reason why. But if you want the sound, you got to have a V8. Arthur's saying America never did the turbo V8 in the modern times, beside the 4.2 V8 twin turbo and the CT6V Blackwing, which is a badass. And then, yeah, it got axed. This kid saying if the H6 comes to fruition on the new Charger thing, it better hit hard. If it hits anywhere like it did in that Wagoneer, it's worth it. Yeah, Dodge X has got a point. Yeah, for sure. Dodge needs a car for that engine. They got the engine. They just need to give it a car that's worthy to. God, please don't put it that Charger looking thing. Y'all listen. Y'all may love it. Okay, this is a subjective thing, and everybody's got their own opinion, man. I am not on board with the looks of that car. I need something different. I need to see something. I need to see at least some level of give it a shot type of thing. But guys, driving me nuts seeing that car running around. It just seems like it's not finished yet. Yeah, a lighter car would be good for sure. Shane, yep. When they drop it, keep your Hemi, but when they drop that car, I would get a hold of it. Let's see. Vector W8. W8s are kind of an interesting thing too. If you're not familiar with a W platform, it's basically you have, depending on how you have it set up, you have a W configuration where you have bank of cylinders, bank of cylinders, bank of cylinders, bank of cylinders. Kind of an interesting thing. The VW had the W6. Actually pretty cool. And the thing is, though, is it uses typically it'll use a single cylinder head. In many cases it will. In older cases, they used actually it wouldn't be a W8. The older ones would be it would be a W6, anything that would just be one of these odd configurations. But they would have a V configuration, and then the cylinder head had combustion chambers that would actually fill the void because of geometry. Anyway, it's complicated, but it's not, and they work pretty well. The Bugatti's got a W16, for example. Sorry, I was thinking engine configurations. Oh, I just screwed this all up. Okay, let's try it like this. I don't know why, but there's some like difficult, like I can't grab my scroll. There we go. So I may end up blasting right past you guys, but and I'm not doing it on purpose. It's because the way that if I have this screen going the way it's doing, it'll kind of mess things up. So anyway, let's see. Bear with me. Oh, Boo's saying 1332 at about 1200. It's not bad. All right, let me see if I got this figured out. Yeah, I don't know why this thing does this now. I'm saying only 14,000 miles in this cat pack. They're only offering you 32. That's not good. I would no. For a 2-year-old car, I'd consider what you probably paid for that thing. I'd be like, no, you need to give me 38 at least, 38 to 42. Darn, yeah, 6.2 is solid. Oh, Ardell, yeah, forget that, bro. No, seriously, no, dude, that's way too low. Okay, saying I got an offer for 40 grand in trade, fully loaded scat, 2022, 35,000 miles. Yeah, the market is actually going down right now. Eric saying, Sovereign's hanging out with Sovereign. He's got a good point. Public pressure could force their hand, but the problem is how much public pressure is going to be levied on Dodge to keep a V8 in play when that 6-cylinder is really good. I'm not saying they shouldn't have a V8. I'm not saying that it didn't meet a viable criteria, but man, it's really that good. So check this out, guys. Let's go through the driving experience. Okay. So the Hurricane 6 in that Wagoneer, let me just put it to you in these terms. When I say it pulled to redline, I'm not kidding when I say I feel like it wasn't going to nose over anywhere near its redline. It's the equivalent of doing this. If you, let's say you got a Scat Pack or you've got an RT, and you get in the car, and let's say, for example, somebody changed your transmission tune, and you get in the car, you drive it around, you get it to operating temperature, everything's fine, and you want to play with it, and you floor the gas and you punch it, and it goes vroom, and it vrooms up to 4,500 RPM, and then it shifts. You, in your head, you would think, aside from the fact who messed with my car, but in your head, man, this car is still pulling. Like, it feels like it's pulling strong. It's not laying over. It's pulling really strong. I wonder what it would do if you extended the RPM range, right? That's what I'm getting at when I say that turbo was still pulling. It felt like, I don't, maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like the thing had another 1,000 RPM in it. I mean, it might have been over rev, which is over rev in this case just means it isn't making more power. It's when the engine flatlines in horsepower. That means it's hemorrhaging torque. It's over rev means it can maintain the horsepower, but your torque's falling off. That's for the back half of the track. Or whatever your back half is that you're measuring, but that's all that power range is there for. This thing felt like if it was going to go into over rev, it was going to have like at least 1,000 RPM of over rev. But it didn't feel like that. It didn't like pull and then shift. It was pull, shift, shift, shift. Saying, man, this thing's amazing. I'm really taken aback, guys. I'm not kidding. It shut my mouth. I'll put it to you. I've told the guy, I said, dude, this thing just shut my mouth up, dude. Like, I was wrong. Whatever I thought it was going to run like, it didn't. In fact, I mean, credit where it's due, guys. If you haven't ridden in one and you haven't driven one, you got to go experience one. Let's see. Yeah, Ardell, they want a fortune for those Wagoneers. I want one. Yeah, I want one bad, dude. I mean, I wouldn't be able to justify it because I'm not really a Lux dude. Like, if I could get a base model Grand Wagoneer but get that engine in it, I might be like an SUV guy at that point. But that's why we're hoping that the thing is put into the trucks. Let's hope drill. Yeah, well, we'll see. Okay, saying for 10 grand more, get a wide body Hellcat. I saw one out the door for $110. God bless. People are dumb. Are they all saying RIP Revlon, good times? She will show somebody a great time. And listen, that car deserves to be in the hands of a young man or young lady, but the car deserves to be in the hands of a young man that's going to enjoy it and have fun with it. I have had a ball with it, and it's time for me to move on to other things. I'm still going to be talking about, and that's another thing, guys. I'm still going to be talking Mopars with y'all. I'm not going to stop that. But I am, when I get tribe running, I am going to be doing more motorcycle specific stuff. I'm going to get the rig for the ride along videos, and I'm going to be doing how-tos, build up on a bike. So that'll be coming as well. So looking forward to bringing you guys that content. It'll be a lot of fun, I think. And like I say, it's something that's different. It's motoring in a different way. And at my core, I've had a motorcycle, or I've been around motorcycles since I don't have a memory that I can think of where I didn't have a bike after the age of 5 years old. So let's see. But yeah, I'm still be talking to you guys about this stuff, still answering questions. You got, I mean, Not like I'm not talking about it. It's not like I'm not even playing with. I just did a tuner vision on Stormy. So, Skids, yeah, some of these younger guys don't remember the great hiatus of big V8 rear-wheel drive offerings from Dodge, Plymouth, and Chrysler. Yeah, things change. I'm not against the 6, but the engine better not suck for sure. I agree with you. That's the thing. So in getting to that, let's talk about that for a second. Skids brings up a really good point. How do I say this? So one of the issues with Dodge is that they make things that are amazing to drive. This has been ongoing. This isn't a recent thing either, fellas. This has been something that has been their MO since time immemorial. They will build something that is amazing to look at. It will be visually stunning. That is bananas to drive. I mean, it'll be like the 440 stuff from back in the day, which is nothing but initial tip-in torque. Or the Hemi, rewarded your patience within revving to 6,000 RPM with a big horsepower push. They're amazing to drive in their own ways is where I'm going with this. The small block stuff was crazy fast as well, eerily fast, if you will. But the trade-off to that was always in the things that make the car last, whether it was rusting issues, whether it was fit and finish issues, build quality issues, reliability issues in some cases, but not in all. For the most part, Dodges are usually pretty rock solid in that respect. But you get where I'm going with this. And that's what I'm hoping. I mean, Dodge powertrain stuff has typically been pretty stout. There's been some questionable issues maybe with some part suppliers. But for the most part, they've been really good. So I can, for the sake of Dodge, only assume that they've got enough R&D in this engine at this stage of the game where it's going to be a long-term performer. I mean, if you're putting your money on one, only hope that's the case. But we shall see. I don't know enough about that side of this. But again, that's the concern. And that's where a lot of people come to when they're looking at Dodge. They're amazing to look at, usually amazing to drive, but execution in almost every other area leaves a lot to be desired. And it ain't like it's cheap to fix. So there's that. But let me get back to you guys. Sovereign's liking Eric's take. Very cool. 289 does sound amazing. 289 is a hard engine to beat when it comes to noise. Arthur's saying if Dodge could come out with a nice handling, 100 pounds, and the Hurricane would thrive in that, it would rip the head off of most anything you line it up next to. Oh, and that includes the Dark Horse, by the way. Dark Horse, 520 horse, whatever it is, doesn't matter. The Hurricane 6 would stomp its ass. I'm sorry, it just makes way too much torque. For that Wagoneer to run the way that it did, God, I'm not kidding you, fellas. It's that strong. It really is that strong. Shane saying, honestly, the new Hurricane could have the potential to be the new Grand Nationals of the 80s. A Grand National is what he's talking about, and be quicker than the 3.6 ATS-V cars, which is an impressive car, which I agree. Could. It's right there with it. It would be an accidental 11-second car, I'll put it to you that way. It would be like on street tires, it would be an 1180 car, 1170 car. I was saying about the Charger Banshee thingy. Thankfully, it was a concept, and they have a chance of coming out with something awesome. Hopefully, a better name to boot. Bingo on that. DM said, I'd like to see the HO inline 6 put in an updated Starander stealth body style, all-wheel drive, and it would need it. It would be flipping. You're like this, my friend. Yeah, absolutely. Arthur, yeah, the Phaeton. Yeah, you're exactly right. It had one of those W engines as well. Oh, Eric, yeah. The small V8s always sounded really good. Rover V8 sound really good too. Sovereign, the Shelby Daytona Coupe is sexy. Some don't like that cutoff back. Yeah, that's true. I came really close to. Actually, I thought at one point I was going to actually work for a Superformance, but I had a. I'm surprised I didn't. Anyway, I had the opportunity to drive one of the Daytonas with a Roush 408, and that was a good running car. Eric's hanging out with Sovereign. Yeah, Arthur, I'd love to see him come out with something like that. That would be sick. Ardell, yep. I'm a 23 Challenger Hellcat jailbreak loaded for 74K new. That's really good. Oh, Arthur, driving the Hurricane in that big old Wagoneer, when do you think the power was available? 2,200 RPM. I stalled it up to 1,200 RPM, and I launched it the same way that I would launch the Hellcat at the drag strip, between 12 and 1,500 RPM. Just loaded the chassis. That was it. And went to watt. And it had a really good initial push, or shove, I should say. It started out, it went woof, and then it was like somebody threw like 3 kits of nitrous on this thing. It went whoosh, wham, and when it hit, it was about a 1 second, which sounds like a lot, but it's not if you're used to driving some of the newer V8s that have a later power band. It wasn't that dissimilar, guys. I'm telling you. Different, but not dissimilar. Anyway, I launched it, it hit, and then it went from 2,200 RPM to 6,000 RPM in first gear real quick. 4-wheel drive, I think it's an auto 4-wheel drive. If it would have been 2-wheel drive, I would have been shocked if it didn't bark the tires. It hit that hard in second and in third and in fourth. And I mean, I just stayed in it. I don't know how we were going, but it was going plenty fast. And it felt like a car. I'm telling you guys, it was playful. It was about as playful as a hippopotamus can get. I mean, the thing weighs 6,500 pounds. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that it felt like I was driving, a Miata or something stupid like that. No, that would just be dumb. But I'm telling you, it felt playful in a way that a 6,500 pound vehicle shouldn't feel. I mean, it felt fun. Like, this damn thing would be a nice place to spend some time. And if you need to get around somebody, you feed that thing wide open throttle. And and that's the other thing. Holy mackerel, dude. I'm telling you. So on the highway, keep in mind, I had to drive Stormy home. Stormy's considered relatively quick. Stormy will run real consistent 1390, 1380s in flat DA. So 60 degrees, whatever, with the humidity. It'll run high 13s, pretty much like clockwork. If I run it a little bit light and it hooks, it'll get into the 7s or the 6s in a little bit cooler air, like 13.6, 13.7. It's runs best of a 1366. But again, kind of a lottery hit. Still can't believe the truck hooked up on that pass. I had no right to, and it ran the number. The real number is like a 13.8, 13.9 with the weight set up. Now, it's a 13-second truck. It's not slow. On the high, at 102 miles an hour, by the way, between 100 and 102, this thing on the highway pulled significantly stronger than my truck does on the highway. Significantly stronger. It would be the difference between between a RT and a Scat Pack on the highway if you line those two up and just went watt. I'm not kidding. That's the difference between the power. And that's a 6,500 pound truck or 6,500 pound Grand Wagoneer versus a 5,300 pound truck. It's that much stronger on the big end. And it's about 2,200 RPM to about 6,200 RPM, and it's strong all the way through. Sovereign's got some sound clips up. Nice. Yeah, X is worried about the durability. Same. Same, but damn, if it isn't strong while it's alive. And yeah, Ken, if it's got to be in an all-wheel drive. I don't know. I mean, it would be great if it was just rear-wheel drive, but you'd be frying tires like crazy. I mean, you would have all of the headaches that a Hellcat owner would have with that setup that way. Oh, Eric's hanging out with Ken 797. X, I believe it's no, it's an aluminum block with iron sleeves. That's the most I know about it, though. But it is forged pistons, crank, and rods. All the internals on this engine, it's got all the makings of an engine that should hold about 1,200 horsepower, assuming that your fueling and your tune is on point. That is an assumption, though. Well, let's see. I'm hoping, Franklin, I'm hoping you're right, man. I asked the dude while I was there, when is that thing hitting? And by the way, again, that Grand Wagoneer rated at 510, 540 is probably a more accurate number because that thing absolutely rips, guys. Oh, Sovereign. Yeah, well, the inline six has got a lot of big shoes to fill for sure. We'll see. I believe X, it's got direct and port injection. My understanding is it's a dual fuel system, but I haven't actually had a chance to get all the specs on it. But I believe it's a dual fuel system, which is the reason why they're able to run the amount of boost through it that they are. Arthur's liking the inline versus the V6. Yeah, it comes in hard, man. But yeah, Eric's saying, yeah, it's going to take a lot, and hopefully put it in something that runs good. That'd be awesome. Eric's saying, well, if Ford can keep a V8, so can Dodge. Ford's able to get their V8 to pass emissions, though. Dodge, not so much. Not with that engine. Ardell is out. Good seeing you, buddy. Yeah, Sovereign. I mean, you're going to hate on Dodge for getting rid of a V8. Guys, I mean, hate on Dodge for getting rid of V8, but they're putting out a base engine that makes like 430 horsepower, 410 or 400 and whatever horsepower. It's like, okay, so you don't get the soundtrack. Okay. So you're giving up the soundtrack to get an extra 50 horsepower. I mean, I get it. We all like the soundtrack of these V8s. I even said it in the video. You heard me pipe up Stormy in that video. But if this is the game that they're playing, these are the rules that they have to go by, then this is what they've got to do to make an engine that'll pass those tests. It just so happens that those engines make a ton of power. We see the same thing with motorcycles, by the way. There's a weird thing with motorcycles where Euro 5 emission standards. What's weird is that there's this huge upswelling with large or larger displacement twin cylinder engines, because for whatever reason, it's easier to get one of those things to pass emissions. And so you get these big torquey kind of hot roddy engines on the motorcycle scene that are making not more power, but they're making more initial power than their 4-cylinder equivalents in terms of displacement. Oh, yeah. I don't know that they could, Arthur, I don't know if they could have put an electric motor in that thing. I don't know. It'd be cool if they could, though. You know, it would be interesting if they did a V8 hybrid system, like a true 4-wheel drive hybrid system like the Vet, where the front wheels are powered by electrons, and the rest of the thing is, I don't know. It'd be cool if they could have figured something out with that. There's a way to do it through the transmission. It's what's called a radial drive electric motor, and it's an electric motor that sits in back of the torque converter, and it doesn't add a lot of complexity. It just adds more components to an automatic transmission, albeit you have to have a bespoke casing and all of that. But there's several of the hybrid setups are like that, and they're good for about 100 horsepower and about 150 foot-pounds of torque added, and you can drive the thing around with that setup, provided you've got, say, I don't know, 40 or 50 kilowatt battery. I just found a used 2023 Wagoneer Series 2 4-wheel drive 8.6 on Car Gurus at Huff Finds Plano, $59,900. It's a good deal. Oh yeah, check out that torture test that Sovereign put up. In fact, I need to revisit that. It's pretty cool. Arthur's saying, if you can tell me what you think about the Dark Horse when you get your hands on it. I would love to get my hands on one of those cars. We'll see. Oh, excellent. I personally don't hate the Hurricane. I've never driven one. I have owned two Supras, one being a 2JZ and familiar with the B58. I think it's fair to ask questions since this isn't Dodge Forte. Indeed, it is fair to ask questions. We should all be asking these questions, especially when we're voting for this engine with their pocketbook. By the way, you talk about 2JZ Supras. Oh my God. I saw my dream car the other day. So y'all always ask me, what car would I get if I could get any car? And I never give you guys really a straight answer. I saw one the other day and I fanboyed my brains out. White, non-Targa, 2JZ Supra. No fin. Oh. That is my Moby Dick. Anyway, so with that, guys, we're coming up on just the other side of an hour. I guess the main takeaway with this is this, fellas. Don't hate on the Hurricane. I know that y'all want a V8. I want a V8. The soundtrack of a V8 is the soundtrack of our lives in many cases. Don't hate on the 6, though. This is a situation where you have a very power dense engine that is going to bring you a level of performance that is understated, not overstated. I can not tell you anything about durability or longevity, but it's one of these things where I can only assume that it's going to be good. Year of the Supra, just pick one. 96, I think. Or 95. But non-Targa. And it was white. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, these kids had the LS swapped it. No, they had not. No, they had not. It was a 6-speed car, and it was kind of stock. Basically, it was a build that would have put down around 550, 600 to the wheels. So this Hurricane 6 smokes the Pentastar. Oh, dude, it's not even close. But hopefully I'll be bringing you guys some new content. Again, it's going to be more motorcycle driven Tribe. So be on the lookout for that. I hopefully will be getting the Triumph Thunderbird back for you guys that are into bikes. The Triumph Thunderbird is getting her spa treatment right now. So tires, fluids, things like that. We did the oil change in that thing, and it was doing pretty well. Driving it around, she does need tires. The Daytona, I just got back from a ride on the T595, which is a 955. It's man, the bike runs great. You can't fault it. It's 25 years old, for crying out loud, and the fact that it rides and runs like a brand new motorcycle, or at least I drive it or ride it like a brand new bike. I don't even know what to say about that bike. And for let's see. And for any of you guys that are interested in motorcycle content related type stuff, really it's more motorcycle lifestyle stuff with a little bit of a build on a bike that I am picking up on Tuesday for the channel, which is kind of near and dear to my heart. It's a bit of a, I don't know. It touches, it pulls at a lot of heartstrings. Is why I'm going with that one. So, let me check back in with you guys. Oh, I'm curious to see what Dodge is bringing us. I would not hold my breath. Hope it goes well. Thank you for the live. Good evening, everybody. Yes, sir. But yeah, keep an eye out on that. Like I say, you will know the bike when you see it, and it will make sense when you do it. I don't want to leave the cat or get the cat out of the bag just yet, but if you like old school stuff, you'll like this bike. At least I hope so. So with let's get out of Road the Hog tonight. Went with some buddies for a couple hours, got home, and then boom, here comes B. So here's the thing: I was out for about an hour on the Daytona, and just buzzing around. I mean, it's one of those crazy things where it's a bike that puts me in such a good mood to ride. But here's the thing. I love riding that bike, but I also am not a dummy. I mean, I need to update that bike in a few different areas. I probably should update the master cylinder, although it stops the thing just fine. It's just got a bit more free play or dead play, but it's not even dead play. It's just, I'll put it like this, it's really soft on trail braking. It's easy to trail brake that bike. So, but the bike I'm getting is brand new, but it's got a lot of old school flavor. So I will be, there's actually quite a bit I need to do to this bike too. It comes a little bit soft from the factory, but it is not a Triumph. But, oh yeah, and y'all definitely check out that torture test on the Hurricane. I know that they did the torture test with the I almost said Power Stroke, the EcoBoost stuff. They did this is a little bit different, so check that out. And with that, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. Listen, y'all get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, that is a wrap. Y'all take it easy.